Hi, my name is David Campbell, and today I'm going to present file and folder permissions on NTFS and setting up previous versions. Let me go back. All file and folders stored on a new technology file system, NTFS, partition has its own access control list, ACL, which is a collection of access control entries, ACE, that identifies a specific security identifier who can perform a given action to a file or folder. NTFS permissions apply security to files and folders that impact any user trying to access the folder or file. This applies evenly to all users. Windows 7 applies specific default permissions to folders when a partition is first formatted with the NTFS file system. Now, what this says is when you have a new hard drive and you format it to the NTFS file system, it will be able to give out security permissions to files and folders that a user or owner sets up. And I'm going to demonstrate what some of those security options are. The permissions defined, write, allows new files and folders to be created and rewritten. So what happens is that if someone creates a file and you can be able to place it on a network, or on a computer, and you're able to keep it there, delete it, do whatever you would like with it. And when you're done with it, you can rewrite it, change it, do whatever you would like. Read allows you only a file to be viewed. So like say if you're looking at a text document, you'd be able to read it, but you wouldn't be able to correct any of the mistakes or any type of that. You'd just be able to look at it, read it, and then just leave it where it's at. List folder contents only applies to folders. Without this permission, the file and folder contained in a folder cannot be listed. The application can still access the file if they have permissions and know the exact file names. What this is going to be saying pretty much is that the folder won't be listed, but as long as you know where the file is located and the name, then you'd be able to find it. Kind of a little security function right there, so that if you want to hide a folder somewhere that you only want to know, or you give someone else the exact coordinates of the folder, then that person would be able to find it. And that's a really nice detail right there, especially when you don't want people looking at too much of your information, but you want to share it to certain individuals. The read and execute. This permission is used for allowing files to read access to a file information, and it is an executable file. The user is allowed to run it. So if you have like some type of file, like you want to install like a new program or something, the exe file, the executable file, the user, not the owner, would be able to, well, the owner will be able to use it, but anybody else would be able to install that program and execute to run without any type of security problems or anything like that, without any type of um, hassle. Modify allows the same action combining read and write and execute permissions, also allows the file to be deleted. Now the modify pretty much is just if you want to delete the file over the network or on the computer's hard drive. So that's one kind of a nice detail if you're trying to clean up some type of information up on the network or the computer. Full control, allowing the user to take ownership of the files. Full control allows all permissions to be used. You can do whatever you would like to the folder without any type of restrictions at all. So you can delete, you can change, you can move to another folder, anything you'd want to do to a folder, like if you had like full owner privileges. The default permission. The first level of a folder in the NTSF partition file system is the root folder. The default permissions assigned to the folder on the F drive are members of the computer, admin, groups, have full control. Now, the members of the computer can be just like whoever the administrator sets up, but does not give administrative privileges, but the administrator, as default, has full control. The operating system has full control, and it's saying that the computer still has, or not the computer, but the operating system itself still has full control and still be able to manipulate it no matter what the administrator does. It's still, as long as you have the administrator there, then you'd be able to do it, but the operating system still has full control no matter what. Members of the computer's user groups have the ability to read and execute programs. And this is right here where you can see some of the full control. You'll be allow, modify, read and execute, list and folder content, read and write. And this is what the administrator will be able to do, that the operating system knows exactly what type of functions that are there, and the administrator or owner will be able to set up these restrictions. Authenticated users have the ability to create folders in the folder/read and write data in subfolders only. All right, quick question. What does ACL stand for? ACL stands for Access Control List. And that what else helps set up the computer to, or the files and folders that you want to have like these restrictions to. Question 2. What are two default folder permissions and an NTFS partition? One would be full control, which you can manipulate, delete, move to any other subfolders or to another folder. Now read, you'd be able just to look at the file. You'd be able to, as I said, like a text document, you'd just be able to read. You wouldn't be able to correct any mistakes or write any information that you want to put on there, but you'd just be able to read it, kind of just like a magazine. Individual NTFS permissions. Individual NTFS permissions exist to fine-tune access and control file and folders. The list of an individual permission is only available when editing a permission entry in the Advanced Security view. And I'll be showing you that very shortly. Now, the ones I was just showing you with just the permissions, the default folder permissions will be able to do just like the full control, the read, the executable, all that right there. But now you can actually tweak around with whatever you would like to do with the folder. I mean, you can get actually to detail exactly what and what can't the user do on that file or folder. List folder, read data, read attributes, read extended attributes, create files, and write data. You can allow or deny. This is in the permissioned entry for data pop-up. And what this note says is the individual NTFS permissions are not typically used to apply security to files and folders directly. Use standard NTFS permissions when possible due to avoid complex security settings. Now, if you're going to transfer this file to another computer, this can conflict with their security information or security restrictions and everything like that. So this is can be handy, but then it's kind of a double-edged sword where you can actually conflict with other permissions that you have or the other user has set up. So this can be good, but this can be bad. So you can just be careful when you want to set these up. But the default ones are pretty useful. Permission scopes. Once a permission setting is applied to a file or folder, a scope is assigned. The scope dictates what other objects are impacted by the assigned permissions. The file scope is limited to this object only, which is just the file itself. So when you're right-clicking on a folder or a file, then that right there is just limited to that restriction of that file or folder itself. The scope for a folder can be set when applied when viewing the Advanced Security View. As you can see, the Advanced Security View, when you go to the properties to go to that file or folder, and you can actually set up some more information right there. This file folder only, this folder, subfolders, and files. This is how you can actually get really into the root of the folder, or you can just go to subfolders and just files. This folder and subfolders, this file slash folder, subfolders, and files only. Subfolders only, and files only. You can actually, as I was showing you, let me see if I can go back up. You can see some of those right there, where the, let me see if that is. But you can actually go pretty in depth with what you want to use for security permissions on like a file or folder if you really want to protect data on your computer or on the network. Permission inheritance. Now this is what I was kind of talking about when we were going over here about the permissions or the individual NTF permissions, that you can actually tweak around with it, but if you inherit it to like another computer or another network, there actually be some conflicts with that. The NTFS permissions for folders apply to the first folder in which it was used. Then the permissions then propagate to all the folders, subfolders, and files below that point. At the advanced security settings for a folder, the inheritance from form columns show where a permission settings was first applied. Now you can see inherited from, not inherited, so most likely this folder right here was never moved, but you'd be able to see if I moved it from like my computer to a friend's computer, it actually show where it was inherited from. Inheritance of permission is easy, but it may not be wanted in all situations. To enable or disable the inheritance, you can click the Include Inheritance Permissions from the object's parent. Disabling this option will block inheritance at the object. Once the inheritance have been blocked, new permissions need to be assigned, usually from scratch. Exactly what it was just saying, that once you move it to in like another folder or another computer, it inherits the permissions, and you may want to just start all over to get what you want it to be, so that you don't have any conflictions or any trouble trying to view or manipulate that file or folder. Ownership. Every file or folder has an owner assigned to it. The owner of a file or folder has the ability to assign permissions to what file or folder, no matter what permissions were existing before. Now, let's say I created a folder, I moved it over to a friend's computer. I'd still be able to use that folder as long as it knew exactly that it was me trying to access that file or folder. To view the owner of a file or folder is visible by viewing a Folders or File Advanced Security Settings view, and click on Owners tab. And as you can see, the owners right here. In permissions, audit owner, so you would see who's the owner. The current owner is the administrator, the NACO, or the administrator. And you can just go into the more into it, and it'll just show change owner to, say you want to get to a friend or whoever's on like the user groups on your computer, can actually change that over so they can manipulate it to their liking if needed to be. And that could be pretty nice, especially if you have a large network and you want to have other people manipulate a file or folder so that they can work on it instead of they always have to bug you or anything like that. Quick question. Question 1. What tab is the permission scope located in? The answer is Advanced Security View. And I can show you. Let's see. Advanced Security View. Go to right here to the advanced. For special permissions for advanced settings, click advanced. And then right here we can go permissions, auditing, owner, and effective permissions. So you just hit advance on the properties, as you can see right there, and then you go to the owner, or you can just manipulate for permissions, auditing, and effective permissions. And this is like the permissions right here. This is the owner. When a permission scope is assigned, what file or folder can the permissions be applied to? One could be this folder only or files only. You have many permission scopes. We'll just go to the scopes. This file folder only, this folder subfolders and files, and it just goes into really detail of exactly what you want to do to a file or folder. Question 3. Do all files have an ownership? Yes. With creating a file folder, the user who is logged onto the computer creating that file folder will be deemed as the owner of that file or folder. Setting up previous versions in Windows 7. Now, this is a very useful feature, especially if you have someone accidentally deleting a folder that they weren't supposed to have access to, and now you're just like, crap, what do I do? Well, I mean, I spent like hours upon hours making these presentations or something, and now they're deleted. I have to start from scratch again. Well, with Windows 7, this was made a lot easier. Windows 7 includes a previous versions tab. You can use this tab to restore a previous version of a file after it has been modified or deleted. The previous version of a file on a local computer or Windows server, generated by a shadow copy or a general backup copy. Shadow copies cannot replace backup copies because shadow copies do not store a complete copy of a file. If a data corruption occurs, the shadow copy will be useless and only a backup copy will be available to restore the lost file. Now, usually a backup copy is what you need to go to for backing up your data, but shadow copy, you'll usually see like a shadow copy with like what I'll be demonstrating with within the Windows 7 operating system. But having a actual backup copy, like up on an external hard drive or like up on the server's hard drive, that usually would be more stable, especially if you're having a virus or something on your computer, then you don't have any conflicts or corruptions that will limit you for getting that folder or file back. Creating a restore point. You can manually initiate a restore point by going to Control Panel, System and Security, and then click System System Protection. So we're in System Properties from the Control Panel. Then we'll hit the System Protection, and then you can see that we got the Windows 7 system, and then we have a certain amount of hard drive space or another external hard drive or internal hard drive, and then you can configure the restore settings, manage disk space, and delete restore points. So you can just configure this, and this is very easily done, or you can create a restore point right now for the drives that have system protection turned on. So it is always a good idea to have system protection on, because if you lose something, you have a chance of finding that back, and you don't have to go from scratch losing all that important data that you just created. Now, as I said, like shadow copies are only created on an NTFS formatted partition. So if you have like a FAT32, you won't be able to see any of this. So if you're using a FAT32 using Windows 7 or something along that lines, then you won't be able to have these options available. So the NTFS is a really nice formatted partition. So I would definitely recommend this. So file and folder permissions, this is the end. Now this is the Blackboard questions. Why are individual NTFS permissions not typically used? What is the difference between a shadow copy and a backup copy? Now, number one, why are individual NTFS permissions not typically used? Now, as I was saying a couple pages back, that you can use the default NTFS permissions, and you should have not too many problems. But if you're inheriting a folder from a friend or from a colleague on a network, their permissions may conflict with the permissions that are on your computer, and you might have trouble accessing the file folder or doing whatever you want to do with it because of those restrictions. Two, what is the difference between a shadow copy and a backup copy? A shadow copy is only on an NTFS formatted or partitioned, and a backup copy can just be a regular, just complete backup of like your system. Now, the shadow copy, as I'll show you, because the shadow copy cannot replace backup copies, because shadow copies do not store a complete copy of the file. It's just the shadow. So it's not the full thing, especially if you have any type of corruptions or anything on your computer's hard drive, then the shadow copy won't be your best friend, and you'll probably curse the day that you try to do a shadow copy instead of a backup copy. Okay, and that concludes this presentation. Now I'm going to demonstrate using a shadow copy and a backup copy. In just 1 second here. So we're going to go to pictures. Now let's go to the Gorilla Pool. Okay, so I've created this poll, say for like a company or something. This is actually just a ESPN Sports Nation poll, and only one state, except for Maine. Maine is pretty much undecided, but Idaho is the only state that's not afraid of gorillas. So this is a very important poll to know about. But let's just say, oh, someone deleted it. I'm going to empty this recycle bin. Oh no, it's gone. Completely gone. I can't do nothing about it. What am I going to do now? So I'm going to go right click on my pictures, properties. See if I can do it right here. There we go. Right click on the inside the folder. So go to properties, go to previous versions, and this will take, it could take a couple minutes, 10 minutes sometimes. This shouldn't take too long. Oh, it did save from yesterday and last week, which you can actually see the time right here. So let's go to yesterday, my pictures, and let's look for the poll, Gorilla Poll. Here we go. It's back here. This is just a shadow copy. So if anything like a corruption on the folder or within the hard drive, I may completely lose all this. But as you can see, I got my pullback. So all that lost data is magically back right now because of the shadow copy. So let us just close that. And let us go Gorilla Pool. Ah, crap, I lost it again. So now I'm going to use an actual backup copy. So I'm going to use the Windows Home Server feature, which is pretty nice. And this is an actual separate computer, and actually located in a closet in the master bedroom. So this is outside the room right here. Um, I found this very useful to have, especially for backups. And it's just going to take a few seconds to log in. I'm actually getting access to the computer itself. Okay, as you can see, I got shared folders, server storage. I'm going to show you this just 1 second. You can see all my shared folders. My PC backup takes pretty much 11% of my hard drive or my memory on the server. And I'm using a RAID 1. It's a mirrored setup with the hard drives, so that if I lose one hard drive, I got another one, which I really want to save my data on here. So I mean, I don't use the shadow copy too much because I find this a lot easier. But let's go my Windows Home Windows 7 Premium. It's been backed up. As you can see, I've got the other computers on the network. As you can see, I got the Windows Vista Home Premium. This is before I upgraded to Windows 7, and I'm able to still access folders from there. And I mean, it's been a while since I've had to do that. But all right, so let's go view backups. And we're going to go to the nearest date. So this was saved actually yesterday, which is really nice. And we're going to open this up. There we go. Click yes. It's going to take a few seconds. I mean, there is pretty much 67.2 gigabytes of memory that is saved up. And this won't take too long. We're just about there. Okay, we should be there. Let's see what's going on. Okay, that didn't go the way I wanted, but that's the way Windows Home Server is. So just one more second. We'll just go through that again. We're just almost there, so just bear with me on this. Okay, now we're actually looking into the server itself. We're on the hard drive. We're actually on a completely different computer. And this is very useful, especially if you're looking for old drivers that can't be located. So let's go to users. We're going to go to me, go to my pictures, and we have actually found it again. I can just move that right over. And we're able to find that. And that folder has been located from just a complete backup. And it's very nice, as you can see, that having no issues about losing data. The server actually makes it very easy to back up. It does it automatically, or I can do it manually if I needed to. But having a backup is always nice to have, especially if you're having important documents on your computer, because Murphy Law is that when you're going to need a folder or file, it's going to be deleted or corrupted when you need it the most. All right, well, that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much, and have a great day.